Hi, are you also wondering what's your soul group? Many of you guys who identify themselves with kind of the starseed concept and who have the sense they might be a starseed, they wonder, what soul group am I? Like, what's my soul's origination? Or at least the question, where did my soul spend a lot of time? And if you're one of those people who are wondering what's your soul group, I want to talk about this, right? Because in the sessions that I do with people, it becomes very, very quickly, very clear the soul group a specific soul is kind of closer to, and which traits and qualities somebody might have because they're part of a certain soul group or attached to a certain soul group, connected to a certain soul group. And not every soul group is the same. They're quite different. And what I notice is that there are some more frequent soul groups that would be the ones going for sessions, or like being in the spiritual field, being curious who they are, trying to develop themselves, like the whole personal development, spiritual development area is, there are certain soul groups which are very frequent, and then some others, they're almost never there because they're interested in other stuff because they're a different soul group. But like those ones who we come across in the spiritual field or the personal development field, in my experience, a lot of them are from planets like Sirius, and you might know this already, okay? And for all of you who have no idea what I'm talking about in terms of soul group and that's okay, right? I can understand if you say this is very spacey, this is very esoteric, I don't want to talk about it. That's okay, you can just turn the video off. I'm not too much into this totally spaced out stuff either, right? I needed to be grounded. I need for things to be not too spacey. And so therefore, but I still think that the whole concept of soul groups and of our connection to, let's say, the galactic realms, that this is very valid and very real, and that people experience this as very real, and that in the sessions when we identify a certain soul group for a certain person and they step into that identity, their whole life changes. Like, they can literally change their life by figuring out or finding out what their soul group is, what qualities they have, what experiences they're still there, what talents and gifts they bring here, like really. And if they step into that identity, wow, they become so empowered. It's incredible. So therefore, I wouldn't dismiss it as just their concepts and it's not real. In my experience with people, it is very real, right? On the other hand, however, I also want to point out that that's not the whole truth, and that's not the whole story, whether it is of your soul or the galaxies or galaxy, or or source or beings, human beings, other beings. That's not the whole story. That is only, again, one fragment of it all. Now, it is bigger than our own self-concept in terms of our own identification with who we are in this person, with this name, and this history, and these likes and dislikes, and so on. It is bigger, and so on, yeah. It is bigger, but again, once you have explored that, stepped into it, embodied it, and lived from that much more broader and empowered and connected point of perspective, right? You will discover at some stage within your consciousness development that there are limits to this, that this again might be not your little box of your identification and not just your soul, but your soul's origin and your soul group. But again, there will come the point where you will feel, but this is limited. My identification with this soul group, let's say the Pleiades or the Sirians or the Arcturians, that there comes a point where it feels limiting, where you sense, I am even more than that in terms of consciousness. And that is good, but that does not dismiss kind of exploring that area and that concept, that realm, and those connections to the galactic beings and the galactic energies. And it is actually also sometimes when someone senses or explores what their soul group is, they start to communicate with the consciousness of that soul group. Like there are people who start channeling then the Pleiadian consciousness or part of the Pleiadian consciousness, right? And channeling is a whole separate concept, I know, and there is like channeling which is totally freaky and weird, and then there's channeling which is like everyday, totally normal, no big deal type of channeling. It is all like, it is a huge spectrum, and it is all valid, it is all relevant, and it has its qualities, like these different channeling practices and ways of doing it. And whatever you're into, right? Like I said, I don't like this too spacey stuff. I like it to be more grounded, but that's just me. But yeah, people who identify with a soul group, they also build up a rapport and a connection to the Arcturians, to the Andromedans, to the whichever soul group they're connected to, and they might start getting information from their partners on the other side, their partners who are still just consciousness. And in a way, it can also be their own consciousness, which is not physically focused right now, that they're tapping into. And that wisdom, and they can bring that into their lives right now. Now, what I want to say is that, which is very, very important, once you have discovered your soul group, okay, what planet you're from, let's say, or what planet your soul has spent a good bit of time on, and what character traits you bring here, it is important that you do not separate your identity as, let's say, Jack or Rose. Jack and Rose, huh? Titanic? I don't know. Okay, let's say Philip and Carolyn, okay? That you do not identify Philip or Carolyn as separate from the identity of you as a Pleiadian or a Sirian. That you start to identify with this Pleiadian being, which is very much a light being, right? And you see yourself as that, you experience yourself as that, you feel that, but you do this in an abstract way, which means you meditate in order to connect with yourself, right? The Pleiadian self. You listen to stuff, you watch stuff, but you forget your identity, like yourself as Carolyn. So it is very important that when you have started to figure out who you are on a soul level, like soul group traits, that you integrate them into this physical being, because that's also who you are. You're not just a Pleiadian. You're also a human being. And the Pleiadian energies can flow through you, can manifest through you, can live through you, be expressed through you, because you are in human form right now. So don't start going off like with your mind and just being preoccupied with this Pleiadian self that you have, forgetting about your current self, your ID, right? Your human ID. Instead, take what you have found out, who you are on soul level, and integrate it. And then step into all these qualities and powers that you have as a Pleiadian, for example, and manifest in this life what it is you want. Create what you want, why you came here, because you will also figure out generally, if you have found out who your soul group is and what you feel close to, you will be much more clearer, or you can become much more clearer what your purpose and your mission is here. And you will want to live that more. And you can do that by connecting to those aspects, but not separate from yourself. So don't lose yourself in fantasies about that galactic being you are. Instead, incorporate that galactic being you are and let it express through you. And once you have reached like the limits of that identification, then be brave enough, just the way you were brave enough with this, like stepping into opening up. Could my soul have had experiences on other planets? What's there? Then be brave enough when you have reached the borders there to look beyond with your consciousness and explore what else lies beyond. Whenever that time comes, and that could be in 20 years or 60 years or whatever, right? So don't get too attached to the identification of your soul group once you know that this is your soul group. It is beautiful to have that connection and to have that sensation of certainty, right? It's priceless. It is fantastic. But it's not the whole you either. There's much more, much, much more. So just keep that in mind once you start exploring your soul group. Okay? And the ones that are quite prevalent, I don't know if I've said that already, are like in this area, the people who would come for sessions, there are a lot of Sirians, there are a lot of Arcturians, Pleiadians, sometimes Mintakans. There are, what else is there? Yeah, some from Orion, some from Andromeda, some from, like, those would be kind of the main ones. And what I also sense sometimes is a frequency that is similar to the Pleiades, but it's even higher in frequency, almost, even brighter almost, which you could label as like angelic frequency. And I do get sometimes some of those too, which means that they come across nearly as angels. Like some of you also are identified with this earthangel concept, right? And I do notice that some have this frequency of nearly, and what maybe I shouldn't say nearly, of angelic qualities. Okay, so this concept of earthangels is just as valid as all the other soul groups are, all the other galactic beings. And then some people might feel uncomfortable with that, or they might say, yeah, absolutely, I can totally relate to that. And it could also be then that these qualities of this angelic realm project themselves more as Pleiadian if the person can deal with that easier, or if it's more concrete. But the way I sense it when I work with people is there is some other dimension to this Pleiadian dimension then that is stronger. And I would say this, and if somebody says, I have no dealings with angels, it's just a little romantic concept of Christianity or whatever religions, and it's not my thing, that is totally okay. Because after all, we're not talking about a religious belief system, we're talking about frequency and frequency qualities. Okay, so by any means, if you feel called to explore your soul group, or if you know your soul group already, well, let me finish that sentence first. If you feel called to explore it. Like, do it yourself, find out what goes in resonance with you, but just also check, do I like it? Whatever I read about a soul group because it sounds flattering to the ego, or is there actually a true, yes, that's true? And you can do this, you can know the difference, because many of you ask in a lot of ways, how do I know the difference between my ego voice and kind of real, true, higher wisdom? You can distinguish that if you connect with your higher self first, before you read stuff about different soul groups or listen to stuff, which means you can connect with your higher self by simply having the intention of connecting to your soul, to your higher wisdom, and asking your higher self to give you the yes or no if this is actually part of your soul makeup. Okay? And if you have already figured out your soul group and have already started to embody that here, whether that was a couple of years ago you have started or only recently found out, you can actually share this with all the others who are kind of wondering now, do I want to explore this or not? Tell people what you have found out. Maybe if you want to share your soul group, you can, and how it has maybe enhanced your life, what it has given you, like how it has brought value to your life, to feel that connection and to feel your larger self, how you have expanded through becoming aware of who you are galactically or on a soul level, whether it's an earth angel or a Sirian or whatever. Please share, just for others to also get validation of, oh, they all got that from that, so they might feel more maybe curious or courageous to explore that for themselves. Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to love you and leave you for today, and we'll talk again next time.